y'all, my name is Jana Kay. Welcome to Flourish Crochet, and this is the 7th video in my hashtag Christmas Extravaganza 2025 series, where I am talking about how to add a touch of handmade to your Christmas gift giving this year. Whether you're not wanting to make a lot of gifts, hand make a lot of gifts or big gifts for people, you're not sure if the people that you would gift to would appreciate it, or you're kind of like me and wait till the last minute to buy gifts, but you just want to add a touch of you, your personality, your love for crafting to their gifts. Well, that's what this series is all about. And I want to say thank you to KK and Kristen, my friends at K Crochet, for inviting me to join along for Christmas in July and put out some series, some videos about Christmas in July. And Christmas Extravaganza is a whole lot of fun. You can search on that hashtag to find other podcasters that are also putting out videos. So, what is the touch of handmade that you can add to your Christmas gift giving? What is this video all about? Well, it's a pretty big touch of handmade. As I mentioned in the last video, and by the way, if you haven't seen the previous videos, I'll put a link to that playlist here and in the description box below. But the last couple of videos are going to be a little bit bigger gifts, because I was focusing on small, quick, simple, easy, using one skein or one color of yarn, maybe two, so you don't have ends to weave in. But the last few are going to be bigger projects, and this one is not a small project, but it's not hard. It's still very, very surprisingly quick and simple. It's not going to sound that way for those of you who might be a little intimidated when you hear the word knit, but it is a hand knitted project. Some of you have seen my video that I did, my last podcast on making this blanket for my daughter. And if you haven't, I will link it as well, and you can check that out. But I am not suggesting to hand knit a 5-foot by 5-foot blanket, but I am suggesting to hand knit something. If you are giving a gift to somebody like my daughter who has 3 cats, somebody who has a pet or 2 or 3, then maybe hand knit a mat, a small blanket, or a pillow for that pet. I am sure the person who dearly loves their pet will appreciate a gift for their pet. And it doesn't have to be, unless they've got a huge dog, and then maybe a pillow, a small pillow would be the thing. This really is not going to be a 5 by 5 foot project. But even if it is, it doesn't take that long, because you are using this big, fat, chunky yarn, which makes, I think one row is over an inch in length or in height. And if you've never knitted, you don't have to know anything about knitting, because you're using your hands to pull stitches. That's it. So I am going to give a tutorial on how to hand knit a small little, I call them a mat, a little cushion of chunky yarn for someone's pet to lay on that you might want to add to a gift that you're giving that person. Or maybe you just want it to be a gift for a pet, a friend's pet, a child's pet, your own pet. I think you will love hand knitting with this chunky yarn. So I'm going to turn us down to the work table and we will start the tutorial on hand knitting a very small mat, or you can use it, like I said, to make a pillowcase or a very small blanket. So let's get started. All right, hello, and let's get started with this pet mat, bed, or pillow cover. I am using my scrap yarn from my daughter's blanket. So I've got this olive green. It's a little dark, but I'm only gonna do one row of the olive green. I have 2 scrap pieces for that. I've got this butterscotch color, the mustard color, and the ivory. And so I'm just going to show you how to get started. I will also show you how I attach. So one of the reasons for using these different colors is to show you how I attach the yarn to each other as we go. And yeah, I'll take you through the entire process. My idea is that I will do the entire blanket without speeding up, so that you can get an idea of how quick it is to work with this yarn and how easy, hopefully, you will find it is to hand knit. So let's get started. All right, I'm going to start with the butterscotch, the butterscotch color, and show you how to get started. For me, getting started is almost the most difficult part, but you go ahead and you make a slip knot like you normally would, however that is, and make your slip knot. Now, I don't tighten mine a whole lot, and I cannot see my camera, so hopefully you're getting and seeing this all in, but I don't tighten the knot very tight yet. You can always tighten it up after you finish the row or when you're finished with the whole entire project. So you want to make sure you can fit 3 fingers into the loop, because we want our starting chain to be loose. And so I always like to keep my ball of yarn up above me. And so I have 3 fingers. So now I am going to pull the next one through. And as I pull through, I hold here and I make sure that I pull the working yarn up through that way, just like that, and hold the rest. Make sure you can fit your 3 fingers. If not, I take the working yarn and pull it through a little more, 3 fingers. And then you pull the next one through, hold it still, and pull on that working yarn till you can fit 3 fingers. And not very loosely. Of course, I do have smaller hands, smaller fingers, but as long as you, the whole idea is to get a loose chain, and also to keep consistent in your tension. So pull that up, keep pulling till I get 3 fingers, pull the next one up till I get 3 fingers. Now I chained 36 for my huge blanket. I'm only gonna chain half of that. I did a sample and it will come out to be about 24 inches, 2 feet long which I'll check my tape measure. 24 is, where's 24? 24 is about 61 centimeters. So pull the next one until I can get 3 fingers, and we can move a little quicker. It's nice when the yarn is loose. You can pull it through. All right, 3 fingers. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 so far. 10 more. 9. 10. 11. 12. And you can always go back and fix them, make them look nice. 12. 13. 14. 15. Yeah. 16. 17. And 3 fingers, 18. There you go. All right. So I've got my 18 stitches or chains and ready to begin the first row, but I'm going to double check and make sure. The other reason for not tying that slip knot tight is because we want to also keep that first chain very loose as well. I tried one time to do the stitches through that back loop, like I sometimes enjoy doing in crochet if I want to make a pretty border. I like the way it comes out a little bit smoother if I just stitch into the top loop of my stitches. So that's what I did for the blanket, and just like the way it laid better. And so that's what I'm gonna do here. Feel free if you want to pull your stitches up through that back loop of your chains, but I'm gonna do it through the top loop. So there's really no turning chain. I'm gonna double check my camera and make sure you can see the whole thing. Let me slide it down to make sure you can. All right, so I'm going to pull up a loop through that first chain, but it is not a turning chain. It is actually the first stitch on the second row, just like that. That's the first stitch on our second row. Don't worry, it doesn't lay smoothly. And like I said, I carry the yarn this way, and always keep it up above me. It's just easier to do that. So there is my first stitch, or the last stitch of my chain. There's the first stitch of the second row. So then I find the next chain, which is right here, and pull up a loop. And I always pull that working yarn so I don't tighten the stitch that comes before. And again, I usually do 2, you don't have to do 3, but 2 kind of spaced out stitches. All right, the next one right here. So you can go back and look underneath. This chain is coming around this way. So this one right here is my next. And I'm gonna stick my finger through there. You can see after putting 3 fingers through, they tighten up pretty quickly. So there you go, there's 3. That was that chain. So here is the next chain. Pull that one up and through, and always make sure it's the working yarn that you're pulling on, not the yarn that's attached to the previous loop, because you don't want to tighten the previous loop. Keep all your stitches even. There's that chain. This is my next one. So I pull through, and just kind of as I'm going, I'm lining them up and making sure this one is a little bigger, but that's okay. That one may be a little small, and you can adjust, because if you pull on this one and it tightens this, the next one, you just pull on the working yarn to make it bigger. All right, there's that chain. This is the next chain. So pull on that working yarn, pull up a loop, then this chain. So this one is the next. And this yarn, I find, it sticks. It's easy to frog, but it really sticks to itself. And so it stays really well and really nice. Anyway, next that loop, this is the next chain. Pull up a loop, pull that working yarn through. There you go. Next loop, it got a little tight, but that's all right. Pull that working yarn through. Next loop, pull the working yarn through. If I'm getting fast and you want to slow the video down to watch, YouTube allows you to do that. So by all means, if that helps, please do that. All right, next one. Okay, so there's that loop. Sometimes I have to pull that back and look and see what loop I came through so I can find the next chain, top loop of that next chain. All right, so there's that one. This is the next. There's the next. Okay, I can't remember if I went back and counted to make sure I have 18, but after this row, I will count and make sure I have 18. Pull up another loop and pull up another loop. Oops, where did it go? There you go. And pull up, this should be the last one, maybe? Yeah, I think that's my knot. Okay, this should be the last one, but we'll count and double check. Okay, so let's count. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And that's it. There is no turning over and doing a turning chain and flipping to the other side. Nothing. You leave it this way, but now that I'm working in this direction, I take my yarn and I lay it over in that direction. So I'm gonna see if, I'm really not gonna worry too much about color controlling right now. My idea was to do the butterscotch, a row of green, the ivory, a row of green, and then finish with the mustard. But I'm not going to, for this tutorial, worry too much about color controlling that way. So what I just did on row 2 is what you're gonna do the rest of the way, back and forth. You're gonna reach through, pull up a loop, reach through, pull up at the next loop, the next loop, the next loop, and so forth, just making sure that they are staying as consistent even as possible. So let's get going. And always make sure, now my working yarn is coming from the right, so I always want to make sure I pull up that right side of my loop, the right leg. Pull the next one, which sometimes I have a tendency, because I'm so used to pulling like from the left, that I forget. But if you do and you pull and it shortens the previous loop, just pull it back out. They're all connected, and so you can make adjustments as necessary, right? So the next loop, pull up the next one, the next loop, pull up the next one, the next, pull it up. And so you're kind of eyeballing and make sure not only are they the same across, but they were the same as the row before. Pull up and loop, reach in the next, pull up that loop, there's my next loop, pull up the loop, there's the next, pull up a loop, the next, pull up a loop, and I'm going to adjust. So it's going to tighten that one, shorten that one, so I just need to pull again on that working yarn and make it the same size. And I always just kind of pat them down, adjust them, and make sure they're looking good. Pull up a loop, pull up a loop. I'm going to come close to the end. I might get all the way to the end. Pull up a loop. Again, I'm going to go back and make a little bit of an adjustment and pull up a loop. Hey, I think I'm going to get 2 complete rows and the chain in. Pull up a loop. Yes, I am. Pull up a loop. So I'm going to show you what to do if you want to color control at the end and you don't want this end popping through that stitch. You want it to actually be your next color that is showing through. So let me show you how I do that. Okay, so the first thing I do is I want to cut this, not right close behind, just a little behind, and cut that piece off. And then I'm going to go ahead, make sure you go back out of that loop, just so I have some yarn to work with. And you want to make sure that you can feel that little plastic part right there. Then I'm going to change to my green and hope I have enough, but if not, I'm not going to color control, just gonna carry on with the ivory. Okay, so I cannot really, well, maybe I can feel that. If you can't feel the little plastic part, you can snip it and then make sure that you feel it, because that's what you are heating up to fuse together, the fibers as well as that plastic part. So if you need to clean some fibers away, okay, don't comment. I do not know how to work a lighter very well, but it's going to prove me wrong probably. Well, no. And I can't do it with my thumb. So yeah, I don't work lighters very often. So you light it. Got my fan going, it's not helpful. Okay, time back in. I have turned the fan off. Hopefully it won't blow the flame. There we go. All right, so the idea is to get it on fire. That little flame didn't last very long. And then you just squeeze it together. It's a little warm, but it doesn't burn. And then tug. If it feels loose, which this one does, because those two plastic parts didn't really fuse together, so I just light it again. There you go, me and a lighter. There, got a flame going. And then, just don't burn your fingers. I thought the whole thing was gonna like blow up and catch on fire, and it really doesn't. So, there you go. Now you can tug, and it is not going to come loose. It is fused together. So I'm going to pull that loop back up and pull. I don't want the green coming through. So if you look at the back, you can see it's not quite pulled all the way through that loop, but it's bulky enough that the orange won't now come up when I pull the green through. So now we're going in this direction. So I lay my yarn this way and I pull the working yarn through, and you don't see the orange. You might see a little bit on the back of the blanket, but on the front, you don't see it at all. And now I pull up the green. For some reason, this side, I think it's just because I find it easier to pull on the left leg of the loop, seems to go a little faster. And I just pull that all the way through. And this piece is not going to last the whole way down. But it's going to come pretty close. So I'm going to stop right here while I have a decent amount of tail. And I am going to add my ivory in. So we're going to do the same thing, adding that ivory in. I can see the plastic, and this end, I can see that plastic, so we're good to go. So I'm going to light that end. It's on fire. Pick up the green, hold it, and massage it around. Ooh, smells good. Not. All right, massage it till it kind of cools. It's just like working with a hot glue gun. So, not even as hot as a hot glue gun. All right, I can pull it pretty well, and it's staying. So now I can continue. Let me get the scissors out of the way and pulling up the green loop. And the next one, it actually kind of works out perfect where that white is not coming through until now. There you go. Pull that ivory color through. And one more. And I have come to the end. There you go. So that is what it's looking like so far. I'm now going in this direction, so lay your yarn out this way. Oh, and by the way, so far I have done about 5 inches already. So that's why this goes so quickly and can be a really quick project to make. Obviously, if you want to turn it into a pillow, you would make 2 squares. You can seam it up just as you would in crochet. I've never done that before. I haven't made a pillow yet, but there's some great tutorials out there. I will tell you that the YouTube channel Be Cozy has some great tutorials and different stitches besides plain knit stitches. Wildly Woven, she makes blankets and has some really cool designs. She started putting shorts out, and then people started asking questions about her blankets and how to make a blanket and all that. So she does have a few videos now that are out. She has a really good video about using the lighter to fuse the ends together when you're changing color. So Be Cozy, Becozi, and Wildly Woven. There are some other channels that, you know, once you watch something on YouTube, they recommend other channels, similar channels to you. And so I've had some other ones recommended, but haven't checked them out yet. So there you go. All right, I'm ready to go back the other way. So I'm going to throw my yarn the other way and start pulling up a loop on this end and pull from the working yarn. So now I'm pulling from the left leg, pulling the left leg of each loop. So again, I hope those of you that are hesitant about hand knitting because it's knitting, that you can see you don't really need to know anything about knitting to even be able to do this. And like I said, it goes quick. I've already done 5 inches, depending on what size you want your blanket, your pet mat. I was going to tell you also, as I'm working, that I did a chain of 36. I'm pretty sure it was 30. It's 35 or 36. I'm pretty sure it was 36. And I got about 5 to 6. I think it was 6 rows of a ball, out of a ball. And so because this is scrap yarn, I really only got, well, the chain and 2, so basically 3 rows out of my butterscotch color. And you can see with the white, I think I pretty much had 60 to 70 grams of each scrap, except for my green. I had a lot less. And so I'm not getting as many rows. But if you, so you should, if you do 18 like I did, if you do a 2-foot blanket or pet bed, you should be able to get close to 12. I would say 10 to 12 rows for each ball of yarn. And as I measured before, my 1, 2, 3, 4th row, I was already at 5 inches. So that should help you with the math if you're gonna do this, because I'm definitely gonna run short. All right, I am now running out of white, and it looks like my mustard is gonna start pretty much where my green. Oh wait, I'm doing the second thing of green. Ah, I'm ending with mustard. So it looks like my second thing of green is gonna start about the same place my first one ended, my first skein ended. All right, so I cannot feel that plastic piece in the middle, so I'm gonna snip the end off so that I can feel it. And there it is, that little plastic piece. And I can't feel it at all on this end, so I'm gonna snip this end. And there it is. I may snip again or pull. Let me give it another little snip. Okay. That is better. There it is. All right, so now we're gonna heat this one up. Oh, first time. Like I knew what I was doing. Let's see if that gets it hot enough. Oh, it did. Look at that. All right. You can tug. Once it's fused, it will not come apart. I am going to give it a little, I can see that plastic piece right there. I'm going to give it a little more heat. There, got a little flame. There we go. Just to double check and make sure it's going to hold. All right, we're ready to continue with the green. And I'm going to pull it just to make sure we don't see that green coming through. Adjust these a little bit. There you go, because I kind of pulled on them some as I was attaching the other yarn. You can tie a knot. Tying a knot like we have our slip knot is perfectly fine, and it will actually stay. I haven't done it that way, you know, setting it on fire and attaching it that way, fusing them together has worked for me and been pretty easy, other than the fact that I have trouble starting a lighter, getting it to light. But otherwise, yeah, it works pretty well. So, pull these through, sliding down, hopefully it's keeping it in the frame. Remember, you can always go back and adjust. It'll just shorten the last one you've done. You just pull on the working yarn to make it back to a consistent size loop with the others. All right, last one. And then with this green, I can turn the corner. So I accidentally pulled on this left leg and made this one shorter. So I'm just gonna pull on that right leg a little bit, take from my last loop, and then I can pull on that. All right, so now I'm ready to go the other direction. So I put my yarn in the direction I'm going and pull up a loop. I may only get one, hopefully wanting to get 2 rows out of that mustard color. We'll see, but you do need to leave enough of a tail to go back and forth 4 times in order to bind off, which, now that we're on the last color, I will also show you how to bind off. All right, I'm gonna have to snip that end. You can feel where that plastic starts. So I'm going to cut just below that line where I can feel it. And there it is. There's that plastic part. Make sure I'm gonna have to cut this end off. Usually the beginning of a skein and the end of the skein, you can't feel that plastic part, but you just snip it off. And because this is scrap, I don't know if I'm using the beginning or the end. There you go. And fuse it. See, I left that flame going for a little while and it didn't get too carried away. Yeah, the first time I tried it, I was like, okay, I had my husband with me. Help me make sure I don't set the house on fire. All right, that fused nicely. I'll pull that one up. You can see the yellow a little, but it's not too bad. And continue with the yellow. When I get to the end, I am going to measure for my bind off, just to make sure I leave enough for binding off. Okay, so I have on that, I'm going to start at my finishing end and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so it looks like I don't have very much left. I might play yarn chicken. Let's see what happens. But at least you will see kind of how to bind off if I do run out of yarn. So I'm going to go ahead, play some yarn chicken, do one more row of the mustard. I do have a tiny scrap piece that I didn't bring with me of ivory. I think it's ivory. Anyway, one of the colors, a really tiny scrap piece that I can always attach to finish the bind off so that you can see the whole thing. But we'll see. We'll see if we get that done. All right. Again, I'm kind of talking and working pretty quickly, so if my hand gets in the way, I apologize. If you need to slow it down, please use that feature that YouTube gives you to use. And I appreciate you sticking with me through this tutorial that I'm not speeding up. Okay, I'm at the end and I think I might be running out of yarn. All right, so what you want to do when you bind off is pull up a loop on that row, and then you're going to take that loop that you pulled up, put it on top of the next loop, and pull up a loop. So you basically have cast that first loop off, take the one you just pulled up, put it on top of the next one. You've cast now the second loop off, put the one you made that you pulled through on top of the next one, and pull through. And it is the same even if you're going in the other direction. If you're going this way, you would pull up a loop, and the loop you pulled up, you would set on top of the next loop and pull up a loop, set it on top of the next one, pull up a loop. So you're pulling through two and creating one, which is casting that off then. All right, so take the loop I just pulled up on top of the next, pull through, the loop I just made on top of the next, pull through, loop made on top of the next, pull through, and you can see it is making a very nice chain on top. It does kind of roll a little bit, but you can play with it, pull on those stitches. It's a very forgiving, fluffy yarn, and pull on those stitches there so that it lays better. All right, the loop made on top, pull through, the loop made on top, pull through, and I am definitely running out. Loop made, pull through, and the loop made, pull through. The reason it rolls forward is that you've got two loops that you've pulled through, so it's bulkier than when you're pulling one through at a time. All right, I am gonna go grab that extra teeny bit of scrap that I did not bring with me and finish up binding off. All right, it is a really teeny piece of ivory that I had, so I'm going to fuse that with the mustard. There you go. Nothing set on fire in this tutorial. We practiced fire safety. Didn't even set off my smoke alarm, but we didn't get that quite fused together, so I'm gonna do it one more time. There you go. All right. There is a little bit of smoke. My smoke alarm is just to my left. Don't want to be setting that off. All right, fused, we can finish binding off. So the loop I just pulled up, we're gonna set it on top of the next one and pull through. A little bit of white came through, but that's okay. All right, loop on top of the next, pull through, loop on top of the next, pull through. That looks like a white, it's a white and yellow, white and mustard chain. Loop on top of the next, pull through, loop on top of the next, pull through, loop on top of the next one, and pull through. Then, once you've done that, then you pull through the whole rest of it, or if you need to cut it, you pull it through and create your knot. There you go. And you cut it, and just like in crochet and knitting, you can then weave in your ends through these little bump stitches on the back. Again, I use the same procedure that I do when I'm knitting or crocheting, and that is weaving in 3 different directions. And there you go. So when I was measuring it, it came out to be about the same as 1 skein, which is 280 something grams. So if I count, I actually, this is the chain, got in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows plus 2 chains. So that would be very close to about 10 rows. That if you did a 2-foot mat, you did 18 chains. Of course, all our tension is different, but if you did 18, and then you would do one ball would be about 10 rows, depending obviously on tension, and that is about 10 inches. So maybe you want to do 24 by 24. You would need at most 3 balls, and you have been with me while I have been doing a tutorial, going very slow, and it's taken 45 minutes. So if you're not doing a tutorial and working it slowly and stopping, and you're not changing color, you're doing it all in one color, so you only have to change every 10 rows for the new ball of yarn, then it shouldn't take you less than an hour. Hand knitting is so much fun and so quick with this bulky yarn, and so much, at least for me in my opinion, so much easier than using those big old chunky plastic 25 or more millimeter hooks. And so I would love to know if you are going to try your hand at hand knitting, if you've done it before, what are some tutorials out there that you have liked, enjoyed, and yeah, would love to see pictures. My email is always in the description box below. Send me pictures of your hand knitted pet beds or pillows, or even baby blankets, if you dare to make a 3-foot by 3-foot baby blanket. It is so much fun, and it is very addictive. So I hope you try it. Thanks for joining me for this episode of #Christmas Extravaganza. Maybe add a pet mat or pet bed with your Christmas gift giving this year. Just add a touch of handmade. Y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.